Transformational impact is a deep and fundamental, large-scale change which fundamentally alters a system of culture, individual thinking and belief, systems and processes, all in an effort to help change behavior over the long haul for positive change, going beyond small adjustments to redefine core functions and unlock new potential, often through learning, collaboration, and shared purpose. At the end of the day, it's all about creating long-term shifts in mindset, processes, and developing long-term trajectories rather than temporary fixes. Well, when it comes to the area of affordable and sustainable housing, that's where I want to focus our conversation today, because according to the National Alliance to End Homelessness, there's a national shortage of affordable housing for low-income and deserving families. They report the nation faces a national shortage of over 7 million affordable homes and rental homes for the low-income population. Additionally, the income gap is widening. The average American today has to earn significantly more than the average worker to afford a medium-priced home, which creates a substantial affordability gap. And for my friend Jesse Stills, he's on a mission to do his part to create affordable and thriving communities. We'll return to that mission in just a moment. But first, I want to give you the backstory on what makes Sells such an extraordinary person. Before starting his entrepreneurial journey, Jesse had a remarkable and upstanding career as a combat aviation advisor and intelligence analyst in the Air Force in the Special Operations Division. He spent years briefing 3- and 4-star generals and deploying alongside foreign military partners, delivering strategic insights to high-ranking military leaders. He also had the experience of sharing living quarters with Middle Eastern allies, where days were filled with Arabic conversations, tea rituals, and endless strategic military planning. Sells has a unique blend of leadership development skills, cultural intelligence, and strategic communications. And today, he's the co-founder and chief operating officer of Impact Growth Capital, where he manages diverse portfolios of properties and companies at large. He has a deep passion for creating meaningful change and connecting it to a strategic vision focused on putting a dent in the affordable housing and sustainable communities conversation. And Stills joined me this week to tell me more. I'm Kevin McShann. Let's have this conversation. So, Jesse, if you're ready, my friend, I'll take a moment to welcome you to the program, and I'm super excited to learn how you're making a difference in the world of business, my friend. Great to see you, and happy Wednesday to you.
Happy Wednesday. Let's do it, Kevin.
Absolutely. So, Jesse, just before I get into the nitty gritty of what you do, I know for you, my friend, and from a societal perspective, it's a big deal for you to help build communities of hope, inspiration, and trust, my friend. So, what do you think goes into building both a thriving community of people and where people can live as well? What are your thoughts there, my friend?
An inclusive facility? Absolutely. I think today um, it's incredibly important. And one of the reasons is that most people now work from home, or a large portion of people work from home. So the home where you live now, and like apartment complexes, your local housing, it needs to be work for people. And then if you want to extrapolate that even further, like where we progress with AI and just artificial intelligence, it's absolutely amazing that now we can now work with anybody from any different background. I've spent a ton of time working in with Section 8 and housing developments, and I've seen it firsthand that if you're not inclusive, you're just leaving people behind. And um, I'm very passionate about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that you're the co-founder and chief operating officer of Impact Growth Capital, my friend, where you manage the daily operations of a diverse portfolio of products and companies. So tell me about your day job, my friend, and what makes you so fabulous when you come into work, my friend.
Yeah, appreciate it, Kevin. So I run a private equity firm called Impact Growth Capital, as you said, focused on recession resilient housing, capital preservation for people. But really, what we do, what we're passionate about, is the impact we can have on people's lives. And Kevin, I want to make sure this is very clear. When I say impact, I hear a lot of people say that, and then they have solar panels. Nothing wrong with solar panels, right? But the single mom with two kids doesn't care about the solar panels on her roof, right? So what we do is we partner with nonprofits. We partnered with different organizations to provide wraparound services for our residents. That could be as simple as moving our location on Google Maps, so that now the bus stop will stop for the kids there, or it could be mental health, it could be food services, financial literacy courses. It goes. There's quite a bit we do to provide services for our residents, for our people in our community.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jessica, I know that you have a strong uh, passion for both affordable and sustainable housing, my friend. So, talk to me about sort of the space where we are where we're in when it comes to affordable housing and the importance of really doing everything we can to provide more resources in that regard, my friend. What are your thoughts there?
Oh, that's a really good question. So Yeah. So the problem right now in housing, I'll just say this kind of macro big picture, Kevin, right? There's a fair amount of resources for affordable housing, but the affordable housing, if you look at Section 8 or HUD, it's old. It's just fallen apart, right? It's dilapidated. It's turned into projects. Uh, so if we zoom that back and look at affordable housing for people, the average person, when their rent's going up, the cost of housing is going up, it's more of a macro problem. There's more demand than supply. So I think this is a interesting question because when I hear people like Trump today at Davos, he was talking about credit cards we blocked at 10%. We'll do these kind of force interest rates down. That doesn't fix the problem. That actually drives up the demand side. We still don't have enough supply. So now if we start doing first home buyer programs, which are great, but if we make it easier for people to buy a home, then that demand goes up and the supply is still down here. It's just going to make the prices of homes go up even more and the prices of rent to go up even more. So really what we need to do is kind of cut the red tape. I got a project sent to me this morning. They were working on it for 10 years before they got it where they could start developing. And the average state, it's like 2 to 3 years to get it entitled. So just blessed by the government to say you can put a shovel in the ground and start building. So if you have places, uh, where you're growing like crazy. Austin, Texas is a great example of this. They're growing like crazy. They still are growing like crazy. And they were actually saw it ahead of time and they built a ton of units, a ton of homes, a ton of apartment complexes. And their rent and the average cost of homes have actually gone down the last few years. So we've got to fix the supply side. I think it's a regulation thing. We got to do this intelligently to protect people, but we've really got to fix the supply side to fix this issue. It's not a quick fix, unfortunately.
I know it, buddy. I serve on the board of directors for Habitat for Humanity in my
Oh yeah.
hometown, and one of the biggest things we deal with is the acquisition of land. And because buying land today in real estate, and I don't have to tell you, it's awfully expensive. So it's
Yeah.
one of the questions that will demand further conversation for sure, my friend. But I'm also curious to ask you. I know that it means a great deal to you to create what you call meaningful change with impact, my friend, in every project you do. So tell me, what does it mean to also create meaningful change, and how do you correlate that to having the most maximum amount of impact, my friend? What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, this is a conversation I have internally with my own team all the time is how do we measure impact? Right? How do we quantify this? And it's difficult because, like I said earlier, it could be something as simple as a bus stop moving. So now the kids don't have to walk to school; they can hop on a bus. Um, where where this all started for me was I had a resident, Maria, who was just kind of she'd walk into the office, light up the room, steal some coffee, and go back home. And but that was Maria, and we all loved her, right? This is during COVID, and one day I noticed that she stopped paying, and we were supposed to evict her. By law, I'm supposed to actually evict her, right? Um, didn't want to evict her. I loved Maria. Found out that she got cancer. Cool. This is during COVID. There's a lot of free money out for people, for residents. Nobody would support her because she had a good job, but she got cancer, and the treatment, that's poison. She got so sick she couldn't even work anymore. So, impact for me, I could have done what everybody else does. Stage four lung cancer, it's a death sentence. Just let her ride it out for a couple months. As an owner, that's what everybody else does. Impact for me is I picked up the phone, I called 20 plus charities, nonprofits, like, can we get her some support? Yeah, cool. As the owner, I got paid rent, right? When I finally found somebody that was specifically for lung cancer for her. That's great for me, whatever. But what impact for me is they were actually able to for food on her table. They were actually pay for her kids to fly down and visit her and say goodbye. Pay for a lawyer to do the power of attorney and then get her will set up. That's impact, right? That's actually making a difference in my mind. It's not the solar panels, it's not, I don't know, how much water we saved or anything else. It's how are we actually touching people's lives and making them more comfortable, making them safer, and how are we actually doing something and passing down and creating a legacy?
Yeah, legacy is, I always tell people that life is about edging your fingerprints of difference into the sand, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, that's beautiful. I like that.
Absolutely, my friend. And Jesse, I'm also curious to ask you about your thoughts on effective leadership development and how we really create organizations with great leaders. And what do you think goes into creating a culture of both productivity and high morale, my friend? What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, that's not. I love these questions, Kevin. You're awesome. Yeah, yeah. So leadership is. So I'm prior military, and the best leader I ever had taught me how I needed to be taught, and came down on me when I needed to be come down on. Right? Yelled at me, and just basically saw how I needed to be led, and was my leader that way. So I think when we talk about leadership, um, everybody learns differently. Everybody's got different ways they like different past situations that affect them in their lives or their own personal lives. I think as a good leader, you just have to recognize who people are, what motivates them, how to reach them, and make sure we're all on the same goal. Overall, I think we're doing a company like this where we have this big social impact, where we're trying to also protect people's wealth and make a difference in the world. It's about everybody being aligned in the same mission. The details we can figure out later on, but we all have to be aligned on the same mission. And then as a good leader, you have to figure out what motivates your people and how to make a difference for them internally as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you mentioned before you started your entrepreneurial journey, Jesse, you served career as a combat aviation advisor and intelligence analyst in special operations in the Air Force, my friend. So tell me about that experience specifically and how it impacts the work that you do today, my friend.
This actually fits perfectly with the previous question. So, the end of my career, I was very fortunate. I got picked up by a small team here in Florida. We did what's called foreign internal defense. So, went to other countries in the Middle East and basically helped them take care of their own situation. So, I helped as an intel guy. I helped set up the intelligence center, had them work together with their fighter pilots and the guys on the ground, uh, reporting processes. And one of the things I learned pretty quickly is in our military, there's rank and file, there's structure. You know when to listen to people, you know when to work with people, and we get it. It's inherent. Other places, that leadership, there's a giant disconnect. And places I went, the pilots were all royalty or cousins or nephews of royalty, and the people on the ground guys were peasants essentially, or that's how they were treated. Anyways, not saying they were. Um, so it was very, very difficult to get people to work together. So that goes back to being a good leader, and also goes back to like knowing people's circumstance and situation. I just think it was very interesting, and that really shaped my mind when we started this journey of commercial real estate and working with people and just seeing how they lived, if nothing else. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I want to talk to you about identifying opportunities and executing with discipline because I know that's important to you to unlock long-term value. And you said that you thrive in business or entrepreneurial settings with high growth environments, and like me, you enjoy cultivating rather long-lasting relationships that have long-lasting impact, my friend. So tell me about creating an identity with discipline and how it's related to creating great business relationships. What are your thoughts there, my friend?
Yeah, so it's kind of oxymoronic, right? Especially when we talk about housing and impact and working for people on the ground, and then you tie that to a spreadsheet somehow, right? Because I work with private equity, family offices, high net worth individuals invest with us, and they care more about preserving their money. They just don't want to lose it. So how do we do it in a way where we have that downside protection, where we're not being overly risky, which this is not a charity, right? What I do, but also have that impact on the ground to support people. And I think that's a fine line we walk very, very well of creating that community, uh, creating these opportunities for people, but then also preserving the wealth for and creating income for our investors. So it's a good question, and it's a kind of complicated answer, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that part of what you do, my friend, as you mentioned before, is that you help transform the stress part of public housing and part of the obsolete, public sector housing into to modern and sustainable community-centered assets, my friend. So tell me what goes into really evaluating communities and these assets and turning them into modern and sustainable assets, my friend. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah. Um, so a lot of times we go places and they're just not safe. I remember walking around, I was about to say the city, one of the cities, housing projects, major city in the US, and we walk around, there's people just sitting on the corner. And I asked one of the project managers, and said, "Oh, yeah, there's a lot of sex trafficking here. Would you want to leave your daughter home alone? Would you go to work if you knew there were sex traffickers right outside the door on every corner?" No.
Probably not. No.
Yeah, that's crazy, right? So it's one of the first things, if you look at, was it Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? The first thing is shelter and safety. So that's one of the first things we look at. Can we provide shelter and safety for these people? Can we create a community where we get rid of the bad people? I have no problem evicting people. Yeah, I'll do that all day. I'll get rid of the bad people, keep the good people, provide them support, but create a safe environment. One of our properties, and just case study again in Fort Worth, within a year, we were able to get rid of 75% of the crime at that property just because of what we did. After school programs, working with nonprofits, providing services for the people that need it, and quickly getting people out of there that were bad people, essentially, right? So I think that's one of the biggest things right there is just providing a safe environment for people to live in so they can thrive, so they can go up to that next level.
Yeah, and Jesse, what do you think? When I use the term impact investing, my friend, and how do you think that term has evolved over time, my friend?
I hate it. uh, yeah, so that's impact can mean anything to anybody, right? So that's my frustration. And then is it a charity? Because again, the single mom doesn't care about the solar panels on the roof. They don't care about your water limiting devices to save water. They probably hate them, honestly. People like a good shower, right? So, so it's always a frustration point when we talk about impact. And then if you get too far down the line, people are nervous to work with you because you sound like a nonprofit. And I don't want to be a charity. This is not a charity because if I can just frankly talking here, if I can make investors money, right? They get a return on it by doing something good. Heck yeah, then we can do it again and again and again and have real impact in lives instead of constantly begging for dollars for a nonprofit. Nothing against nonprofits, nothing against charities, but if we can do it in a for-profit manner, we can have a much bigger impact on more people.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jesse, I'm also curious to get your thoughts on the idea of inclusion within the workforce. Especially in the States, Dee and I have gone through sort of an extreme home makeover. Not, pardon the pun, my friend, but
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not, just as a point of clarity, my friend, I was born with cerebral palsy, and when I graduated college about a decade and a half ago, buddy, I went on 10 consecutive job interviews, and nobody
Yeah.
would hire me because I had a disability, and I viewed my disability at the time as a liability. So I've dedicated my life to talking to organizations about the importance of hiring people with disabilities and to also look at diversity from a different lens. So tell me, what are your thoughts on workforce diversity and the competitive advantages it brings to a company, my friend? What are your thoughts there?
Yeah. Inclusion shouldn't be a I think the problem most people think about like the DEI or inclusion is that you're forced to work with other people that you don't want to work with or anything else that and I just don't see that as being the case. Inclusion should be a strategy. It's been shown time and time again that inclusive groups and teams outperform other groups. So we have to include people. We have to have an inclusive strategy to work with other people because that's just life. And especially when I work in the affordable housing area, with the workforce housing, we hire people that have what's the word for it? It's lived experience, right? If we work with people that are homeless, we partner with groups that have lived experience that were homeless before that now can provide those services to other people. Because the problem is that people get in this ivory tower where they are looking down from the White House or the government or even just the wealthy owner. They look down and they think they know what's best. But if you don't have that experience or you haven't worked with people in an inclusive team environment, you don't know. You don't know how to reach people. You don't know how to help people. So absolutely, it's a key strategy. It should be included everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Jesse, what are your thoughts on this 2024 Forbes poll that indicated that 64% of Americans agree that the government should have a role in, the housing market and affordable housing. And they, classify housing as a basic necessity in the public and private market, my friend. But they're unable to. Many Americans are unable to access affordable housing. So, and another poll found that 61% of Americans agree that the government should increase the spending that they have when it comes to affordable housing. So I'm wondering your thoughts not only on those two polls from Forbes, but also the role you think the government should play in providing more avenues for affordable housing. What are your thoughts there, my friend?
Yeah. So when you said that statistic, I think it was 64%. I hear
Yeah.
frustration. That's frustration, right? That's people that have seen home values shoot up a crazy amount in the last year. So people have seen their rent double in certain cities. Um, that's I get it. That's there's frustration there, and the government does need to do something. I agree. It still goes back to the same thing of supply and demand, right? If we don't have the supply, there's not much the government can do. And by incentivizing and doing first home buyer programs or lowering interest rates or 40-year amortization rates for homes, you're just going to increase the demand. The supply stays the same, so the price is going to keep going up. So the government needs to get involved by incentivizing or making it cutting this red tape and incentivizing cities to entitle, basically bless the land so we can build more units quicker. And let's face it, like the government, in my work in the military, I spent a lot of time with embassies, with the State Department. I've seen it over and over again. The government is just slow, and it's always going to be behind the times, and there's always going to be some political element to it. Private industries do it better, and they'll do it quicker. So if we can get out of the way in an intelligent, safe way of private industries to come in and build more, that will inherently lower the price and make things more affordable. One of the frustrating things I hear there too, the 64%. All new development is class A luxury, pretty much, right? That's how they make the money, right? And then you have anything before, I think it's 1985, has like cast iron pipes. It's all falling apart. Massive infrastructure issues in America. So then you get like this, the cheapest places are crap. Sorry, Kevin, but they are. They're crap. So we have this middle area for most people that are making, the average earners out there just can't find anything. Or if they do, if it's $300,000, you got to come up with what, 15K, and I think 66% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. Good luck, right? So that's why the average first time home buyer right now is like 40 years old. So the only way we can fix that missing middle, because the luxury people can keep going to luxury places, they're fine, right? The people at the very bottom, they're stuck with what they get down, and we can get rid of all the old stuff. Um, but yeah, it's a massive issue.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jesse, I asked you earlier about workplace inclusion, but I also wanted to ask you about societal inclusion and how you think as a society we can get back to compromising, my friend, because if you turn on the news, you're often asked to sort of pick what I call a territorial side, depending on the type of news outlet you want. It's often, you know, slanted to one point of view. And this is someone who went asking you this question as someone who went to school for journalism, my friend. And I'm
Yeah.
wondering your thoughts on societal integrity and how we can get back to sort of permission to compromise, if that makes sense. What are your thoughts there, my friend?
Yeah. Kevin, you said you're close to Detroit. Are you a Detroit Lions fan?
Sadly, it's one of my faults in life, my friend.
Hey, Cowboys. So I get it. I'm worse than you are, I think. Yeah. This sucker for
Oh,
punishment.
well, just for you to answer that question, I wish you
Yeah.
well in fixing your defense this year, my friend.
And yeah, same with fixing our GM. Appreciate it.
Well, the only
Well,
problem with that is he owns the team, so he's not going to fire himself. But that,
exactly. That's a problem. So the reason why I brought that up is, you know, at any team, you're always gonna have those diehard fans that are too far. They're just a little crazy. They worship everything their team does. But I feel like most of us enjoy our team. We watch our team, but we also watch other players. We watch other teams. We root for other people. When the Lions started doing really well the last few years, I was rooting for you guys. I really wanted you guys to make it. Not my team, but I see the benefit and why it's good. Right now, we're at this place where we're so bifurcated, right? In politics, and you either are on this team or this team. There's no in the middle, and that's kind of I feel like that's what you're talking about. Um, and how do we get out of that? I think people just need to get more clarity about what's going on. I think if you really brought it down to what most people care about, it's going to be the same three or four things, right? We want to be able to live our life in peace. We want to get the pursuit of happiness. We want government to support certain things, but stay out of other things and not waste our money, right? I think the vast majority of people would agree with that. We need to get back to that, and we need to get back to focusing on what matters. I think the 24-hour news cycle, this non-onslaught where if you watch Fox or MSNBC, all you're going to see is the worst things from the other people, which shapes your mind a different way. I think it's hard, but we've got to find a way to get back to that central where we're actually focusing on what matters to us, because I think we're actually a lot more closely, lot more similar than people actually believe.
Yeah, so what part of I'm curious to follow up with this and ask you what part of the process of having conversations with people do you think is broken? Essentially, what I'm asking is, how do you think we got here, my friend, and how much work do you think we have to do to dig ourselves out of it, my friend? What are your thoughts there?
Oof, that's a long conversation there. Um, I think I think there's quite a few things that brought us here to the point we're at. I think it was a slow build that been pursued very intentionally by bad actors. Personally, that's just my opinion, um, and it keeps everybody focused on things that doesn't matter, in my opinion, or doesn't matter as much as we think it does. Um, how do we get out of here? I think there's got to be a culture shift. And you know what I'm actually hoping, Kevin, is with all this AI stuff and these fake pictures and these fake videos that are coming out, that we can kind of tell what's going on now. That they're fake a little bit, but in a couple of years we're not gonna be able to tell. I'm hoping that's going to force people to really be skeptical about what they see and read in the future, and it's going to change us, where we're only looking at what actually matters and only looking at verifiable sources. 'Cause I see so many people tricked already about things online. So I'm hopefully this next generation can teach us all, but that once all that stuff gets too complex, that we'll actually kind of reset a little bit and go back to the basics.
You know, Jesse, there's a sign in my office that says, you can't believe everything you read on the internet right now.
Right? Yeah.
I'm only kidding. Kidding, but not kidding, of course.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I think Abe said that, right? Abe Lincoln, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
We're giving each other an American history refresher, my friend, but that's okay.
Yep.
I'm curious to go back to affordable housing and low income housing because I'm curious to get your thoughts on these findings from the National Low Income Housing Coalition, my friend, that found that
Okay.
68% of Americans support more investment in critical infrastructure to repair existing public housing and making it more sustainable, my friends. So I'm curious to get your thoughts on those findings, but also, what are your thoughts on the need to better invest in infrastructure to give more people more affordable housing options? What are your thoughts there, my friend?
Yeah, let me add some more numbers to that because I focus on public housing quite a bit. Um, so there's about, I used to have it memorized, it's about 680,000 units that are public housing that are owned by the government. 680,000 roughly. Um, in 2024, they did their own audit of those. They went and actually toured them. They said, are these livable or not? 40% of them failed that assessment. 40%. failed their own livability assessment that they put on themselves. People are living in those. Most of these places were built in like the 1950s. Again, anything built for 1985 has massive infrastructure issues, most likely. Um, so yes, I wholeheartedly agree with what you said, Kevin. I absolutely think we need to reinvest. We did some of our own calculations internally, and it's something like $200 billion needs to get reinvested to fix those units. It's not going to happen. I just don't think the government's going to do it anytime soon, but it absolutely should happen and needs to happen. And those people deserve for it to happen because right now there's a ton of people, and I wish I had this statistic, but there's a ton of people living in those units that they deemed themselves to be unlivable.
Yeah, it's certainly a conversation that deserves more attention, my friend, and I'm glad we started it there. But I'm also curious to ask you about habits, my friend, and the mistakes that you made in your early real estate career that you've learned from, and what do you think is the key to creating great habits of possibilities in the work that you do? What are your thoughts there?
Yeah. I love these questions. So, again, I'm pretty passionate about this one too. Yeah, because habits are everything. If people think about, look, it's this time of the year right now. So last Friday was officially quitting day, right? That's the second Friday of January where most people quit on their New Year's resolutions. That just happened. So the problem with the New Year's resolution is it's not a habit yet, right? It's discipline at first to go to the gym, but discipline turns into a habit. You don't have to think about brushing your teeth. You do it every night. It's a habit. So if all we are is what we do, went to YouTube University to learn how to do this, started out with syndications before moving to private equity and JV partnering with institutions and family offices. So in the beginning, I was reading every book I could, YouTubing everything I can to figure out how to do all this stuff. And I made a lot of mistakes, you know. But the habit for me was getting up early. I go to the gym every morning, and then I spend an hour or two just studying what's going on in the world. How does this affect what we're working on? And then I go out and I spend hours just connecting with people and talking to other experts. In the beginning, I knew how to flip a home. I've done it a few times. I've rented out homes, but I didn't understand. The first one was mobile home park. I didn't understand the differences mobile home parks are to single family homes, and I made a lot of mistakes. So now it's my habit is constantly making new relationships, constantly finding the experts and having those conversations with them, and that's made all the difference.
Yeah, absolutely. I always say that life is a constant game of networking, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It's who you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Jesse, I'm also curious to get your thoughts on how, as a leader of an organization as you are, what's your thought process in developing a maximum potential in people and really maximizing the level of impact you can get out of people that work for you? Because whether you're in charge of leading a team of 50 or 2,000, my friend, leadership is a people business, and I'm wondering your thoughts on that regard as well.
Yeah, I think that's a culture thing, first and foremost. And I think if you don't focus on culture when you're building a business, it will be created for you, and you're probably not going to like it, right? That's some quote from somebody. I don't remember who it was. So for me, it's you get out of people what you put into them, and they're going to reflect that. If you're lazy, you don't get back to them when they ask you to do things, they're going to do the same thing to you. So being a leader is always being accountable to your people as well as the outside and building that culture where they feel like they can go do things on their own and they feel empowered to do it. To me, that's what it's all about. It's empowering your people to make choices and lean forward. I would much rather have somebody make mistakes because they were doing too much than wait for me to tell them what to do. So, and that's the kind of culture I hope I instill in our employees.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jesse, I wanted to get your thoughts quickly on, entrepreneurial momentum and what it means to you to capture and take advantage of momentum in entrepreneurship, my friend. What do you think that means to you?
I I think momentum's almost made up, and that's a good thing. I think momentum is a headspace where you're in. It's like the people that think, man, the world's always out to get me and something's bad's always happen. Well, it's probably going to happen that way because that's what you think and that's what you're creating your own environment. So if you think the world's out to do everything for you, like, man, the world's got my back, this is going to happen, you're creating your own momentum. So if you go out there and you show people that energy and you are constantly networking, you're constantly working with people, constantly making the right choices, the world's going to respond and create that momentum for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jesse, my final question for you has to do with legacy and building a lasting legacy and how you want your personal and professional legacy to be defined, my friend. What are your thoughts there?
Um, the I've always wanted to be able to look in the mirror and know I did it the right way. The way I made money, made wealth is the right way by helping other people. There's a lot of people that make money in this world by standing on the back of others, by taking advantage of people. Um, but to me, the legacy for me is to look in the mirror and know I did it the right way, whether that mirrors my future wife's eyes, future kids' eyes, or just the mirror for myself.
Yeah, absolutely, my friend. And finally, tell me if people want to get connected with the great work that you're doing in real estate or yourself personally, what's the best way they can do that, my friend?
Absolutely. Best way to get a hold of me is through LinkedIn, Jesse-Sells, Jessells, or our website, impactgrowthcap.com.
Fabulous, my friend. Well, I really want to thank you for the impact that you're making in both affordable and sustainable housing and giving people a place to call home, my friend. You're really doing impactful work, and I want to thank you for being here today to engage in conversation with me, my friend. It's most appreciated.
Kevin, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you.